Brooke thought she had experienced the ultimate pain of her life, the breakups with Ridge, the gossips of the fashion world, the power struggles at Forrester Creations, but nothing could compare to the storm that was slowly destroying her body. The day Ridge boldly announced that he wanted to marry Taylor in front of the press, his family, and even those who had believed Brooke was his eternal love was also the day her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. That shock, along with the long, lonely nights in the large mansion, pushed Brooke into a familiar spiral of glasses of red wine, at first just to dispel the emptiness in her chest but quickly turning into an uncontrollable thirst. She had quit drinking, had promised Hope and herself that she would never let alcohol become a rope to tie her down again. But Ridge's happy laughter with Taylor echoed all the way to Los Angeles, robbing her of that fragile self-control. In the months that followed, Brooke plodded into work, her face carefully concealed by thick layers of makeup to hide her paleness and the dark circles under her eyes. Whenever she saw Ridge and Taylor's wedding photos on magazine covers or the well wishes that echoed through the hallways, she'd walk back to her office with a knot in her stomach. During lunch breaks, when everyone else was busy with sketches and fabric samples, she'd quietly pour herself a glass of white wine hidden in a drawer, just a sip to calm down, she'd tell herself, and it would slide down her esophagus like a fire taking root. At night, a second and third glass would clink against each other in the empty kitchen. The faint pink lipstick marks on the rims of the glasses were a bitter testament to a relapse she'd never had the courage to admit to anyone. When the fatigue and dull pain in her right lower quadrant began to linger, Brooke blamed it on stress. She swallowed painkillers, put on more makeup, and smiled wider for the cameras. But the couture launch party was a turning point. The strobe lights were blinding, the music was pounding, alcohol was coursing through her veins, and her body was suddenly reeling. Before Steffi could take the stage, Brooke collapsed backstage to Hope's horrified screams. The company was in chaos. Her ivory silk dress was stained with red wine, and when Ridge rushed in from the hall, all he could see was his ex-wife's lips were blue, her hands clutching her stomach as if trying to pin down something exploding inside. At the hospital, Dr. Chambers quietly flipped through the test results, his voice dropping as he announced, Stage 3 hepatocellular carcinoma. In that moment, the cacophony of Los Angeles seemed to die down. The vital signs continued to beep, but Brooke heard it as if it were far away. She saw Hope crying, Steffi standing still, and Ridge, who had just put a white diamond ring on Taylor, bewildered, his eyes red. The tragedy had not come from a spectacular accident nor from the machinations of Quinn or Bill Spencer, but from the slow, steady effect of every drop of alcohol she poured into her own heart and liver. For the first few days, Brooke kept the diagnosis a secret. She signed early discharge papers, forced the doctor to prescribe the strongest painkillers, and returned to the mansion where the mirror reflected a Brooke more exhausted than she had ever seen. But liver cancer was crueler than any emotional trauma she had ever endured. Her abdomen was swollen with ascites, her skin was yellow, her breath smelled of metal. To avoid the pitying looks, she wore turtlenecks even in the middle of summer and even thicker makeup, but every step burned. And there was still the wine, her loyal accomplice, in the crystal cabinet. Her addiction forced her into a paradox. The more she hurt, the more she drank, the more her illness became. But secrets in the Forrester world never stayed quiet for long. One night, Hope came home early, pushed open the door to hear the sound of a glass bottle shattering. She found her mother kneeling on the floor, eyes wild, next to her a trail of crimson blood from a broken glass arm. Hope screamed her mother's name, ran to hug her, and knew her worst nightmare had returned. Left with no choice, Brooke broke down and confessed her illness and addiction, mumbling, "I'm sorry, I just want to stop this pain." The news quickly spread to Taylor through Steffi. Stunned by guilt, Taylor, a psychiatrist who understands the cycle of addiction, puts her honeymoon on hold to go to Brooke's house, carrying a set of rehab files and a faint hope of healing. But Brooke's door closes, her voice hoarse. "I don't need your pity." In the hallway, Hope and Thomas hear something banging. Probably the framed photo Brooke had hung on her wedding day with Ridge. and both understand that the hidden hatred between the two women has now reached an unprecedented climax. Ridge, torn by guilt and old love, decides to break down the wall of indifference he built since marrying Taylor. He comes to Brooke's bedside in the hospital when she is readmitted due to portal hemorrhage. Brooke lies motionless, her lips dry and cracked, the smell of antiseptic mixed with the scent of alcohol still lingering. Ridge takes her hand, choking, "Logan, I'm sorry." But before he can finish, Brooke opens her eyes, her gaze mixed with anger and pain. "What are you sorry for? For promising to love me forever and then abandoning me?" More blood seeped from the floor, drowning out any apologies in the pulsing red of despair. Meanwhile, Bill Spencer smells opportunity. He approaches Brooke's sister Katie, pretending to be interested but really wanting to take over Forrester shares while the family is in turmoil. In a tense meeting, Bill hints that Brooke's health could cause investors to panic. Eric, his hands shaking with age, declares that anyone who touches Brooke is declaring war on the entire Forrester family. The support brings tears to Brooke's eyes, but tears are not enough to ease the pain raging in her liver. Based on the biopsy results, the doctor recommends a combination treatment regimen, focused intravenous chemotherapy, then stereotactic radiotherapy, and in the unlikely event of a liver transplant. Unfortunately, Brooke's rare blood type makes the transplant waiting list hopeless. A suitable liver could take months, even years. Hope suggests compatibility testing, but she carries a genetic mutation that makes organ donation risky. Brooke's days are numbered. It was then that Deacon, who had once opposed the entire Forrester clan because of selfish love, stepped in with a daring decision. He secretly arranged for his liver to be tested and found a rare 78% compatibility. The medical team warned of the danger, but Deacon was adamant. "I owe her a chance to live." When the news reached Ridge, jealousy and shame exploded. He rushed at Deacon, they struggled in the hospital hallway, and Steffi had to call security to intervene. The chaotic scene was accidentally captured by reporters, turning the Ridge, Brooke, Deacon triangle into a hot social media headline, further pushing Brooke into the center of the public storm. Taylor, heartbroken at witnessing Ridge's broken trust, tried to hold him back but was met with only distant silence. She wondered. In the moment Brooke was close to death, Ridge's heart chose to return to where it started? That question became a ghost in their budding marriage. Steffi confronts Hope, accusing the Logans of always breaking up the Forrester family, while Thomas fiercely defends Hope, causing sibling conflict to erupt. Eric and Donna are heartbroken to see the family divided again. The fateful day of the liver transplant arrives with the gloom of Los Angeles turning to rain. The green in operation light flashes for 6 tense hours. In the waiting room, Ridge holds Hope's hand, while Taylor sits 2 rows away, her eyes filled with tears. Bill walks in quietly, handing Katie a handkerchief. For the first time in years, they are silent together, praying together. Eric leans on an ebony cane, his face as stoic as a Greek statue. The door to the operating room opens and the doctor sighs, announcing the acute rejection of the transplanted liver. All efforts to adjust the immunosuppressant drugs are not timely. Brooke's blood pressure plummets, her heart rate is irregular. After more than an hour of fighting, the team is forced to sign a protocol to stop the transplant and urgently transfer Brooke to the ICU. Deacon was still on the operating table, his liver missing a lobe, but the transplant had been in vain. Hope was shattered and Ridge's strong wall collapsed. He burst into tears in the hallway, showing his vulnerability for the first time in front of the paparazzi. In the recovery room, Brooke was half conscious, the ventilator pounding like a hammer. Looking through the glass, Ridge whispered, "Logan, don't leave me." Taylor turned away quietly, slumping into a chair, knowing that her marriage was probably over as soon as the transplant failed. Steffi hugged her mother, her tears mixing with the rain outside the window, and Hope knelt beside Deacon, staring at the pale face of the man who had just traded part of his body to save her mother. 3 days later, Dr. Chambers announced the final plan, experimental targeted therapy with a success rate of less than 10% and severe side effects. But Brooke nodded weakly. If there's a chance to see Hope happy, to hug Beth and Douglas again, I'll take it. As the four drips into her veins, she looks at Ridge through the oxygen mask. His voice is hoarse. I was wrong to leave you. Brooke closes her eyes, not out of forgiveness but out of exhaustion, but her fingers squeeze Ridge's hand, a final signal between two souls who have been wronged. Will a miracle happen before Brooke's liver goes on permanent strike? Will Deacon wake up in time to see his bold decision save the woman he loves? Will Ridge Taylor's marriage suffer another irreparable rift? Los Angeles is covered in the gray of late-season rain, leaving viewers breathless for answers as the battle between love, guilt, and redemption has never been more intense in the history of the bold and the beautiful.